Welcome to another game of Civilization 2. This game is going to be played at the difficulty level Deity Plus Three with Barbarian Wrath. I'll post a video explaining how you can access those difficulties. Now I'm going to be playing as the Persians, just because. Didn't have any particular reason for it. Now I'm selecting computer opponents here because expansionist civilizations tend to do better at this difficulty level, so I'll make it more interesting, at least as the game goes on. Now the reasons for that will be kind of obvious as the game gets played out more. You won't really see it in this part though. So, here it is. I build Persepolis here in order to have access to the silk. So what I'm going to do is known as the one city size, one settler trick, usually, or something of that nature. Basically, if you have only one city, and you build a settler in it, the city won't disband. Now, this can be useful in a lot of circumstances, especially if you only start off with one settler. But it's particularly useful in the DD plus levels, because as soon as you start to build more cities, the riot factor will kick in, and it will cause unhappiness in your capital. But you don't get that if the capital is your only city. So it gives you some production that you wouldn't get if you actually built a second city. In a normal game, you have to weigh getting an extra settler with having one less city for the amount of time it takes to build. Oh yeah, and here I'm switching on all the announcements that I forgot to do. I don't really know why they were off anyway, but they were. So in the early game, you're going to want to run high science and luxuries. If your cities are in disorder, they don't produce taxes, so there's no point in having taxes anyway. But they will produce science. So basically leaving your city in disorder until it reaches size 2 is a pretty valid tactic. So you see here is, unlike my last video where I basically showed everything and just speeded it up as the game went on, here I'm actually going to skip some parts, and because they weren't all that interesting. Not that everything I show here is interesting either, but I included the important sort of stuff, like tech discoveries and or at least a few units early on when they were built. Yeah, so when at this high difficulty level, your cities immediately begin to have very unhappy people. Those are the people that are black. And the good thing about them is that 2 luxuries will take them all the way to happy. So running luxuries early in the game is actually quite useful. And so you want to usually go for Republic as quickly as possible, so that you can get the extra trade to run luxuries. Because using martial law is just ineffective at keeping order. Yeah, so there the Egyptians began pyramids in 1700 BC. Exactly when everyone begins wonders will depend somewhat on the game, I guess. Because sometimes they'll be up and at it really quickly. You can usually write off all the early wonders. Hanging Gardens is really nice to have, but unless you get really, really lucky, you're not going to get it. I remember one game actually managing to get it. a while ago now. But, that's the way it is. And so, basically, like, you usually have a shot at getting Marco Polo's embassy, and it's not really guaranteed. But, it's a reasonable goal. And if you don't get it, you can usually pick up Magellan's. Yeah, so I built some horsemen for exploration. Seeing as how I was going to Republic, I probably should have ended up building diplomats instead. Because, for the extra time, it wouldn't really matter in the end. And especially in Persepolis, where I wouldn't have been able to build a settler anyway. Right away, because I wouldn't have had enough food to grow. So, there the Egyptians built pyramids in about 1000 BC. So there the Russians built Colossus and the Vikings Hanging Gardens. And I have the Republic, which will let me get enough trade to run higher luxury levels. So there I had the revolution, and on the next turn, I'll establish Republic. So what I'm doing right here is testing out different luxury levels and seeing how to arrange everything. Because you want to have as few luxuries as possible, but you have to weigh that against the fact that enough luxuries will let more cities stay in order. I eventually settled on 30% luxuries. So there the Zulus build lighthouse, 800 BC. And map making is really nice because the triremes allow you to transport your settlers much more quickly to good building sites, so you have to spend less time supporting them, and you can actually get the city production sooner as well. And if you have enough water, then it's much cheaper to use boats than settlers when you think about your opportunity cost. The settlers you have to support while they're building, and then you can't build another city with it. Whereas if you have enough water, a boat can transport much quicker. Okay, so it was a very good thing that I just got that 50 gold out of the hut, because the barbarians just landed at Persepolis, and if I hadn't gotten it, I would have lost the city. This it shows you that you should actually have a little more defense than I did, at least at the capital. No, I mean, the chances of barbarians landing right outside your capital city is pretty low, but, you know, it can happen. So you should have at least some gold to bribe them away. Or a unit in there to defend with. Generally speaking, though, the cost of defense, it's better to just let your city get captured and bribe it back. Or just... Because, you know, if you're defending everywhere, then it's going to become really costly, and you sort of lose more than you gain. Than you could gain by having extra cities. So you're basically defended by being larger. Also, on this level, barbarians get a huge attack bonus. So, when fighting you, so you're going to want to attack the barbarians if possible, or bribe them away. So, there's my next city. Now, I was originally going to build Bactra there, but then I realized that I could have coastal access and get both those specials from the site I moved to. So I decided to build it there instead. And so there I switched to 40% luxuries, so that I could have access. So that basically my size 1 cities are more likely to actually be able to produce directly instead of having to wait in disorder until size 2. Also, something I didn't point out earlier is that Antioch grew to size 3, so then I was able to use an entertainer to make it celebrate to size 4. By the way, the Russians built the Great Wall. So then when you build a settler, it reduces back to size 3. But since Human Republic, celebration is quite nice because it can make your city grow really quickly. This will become important later on, because at this level you have so many black hats that you really need... that luxuries are basically your only method of effective order maintenance. But this actually makes it relatively easy to have your city celebrate, because you can just raise the luxuries. And you don't have to worry about having all sorts of buildings and stuff to maintain it because of the... there's the Oracle built, but I think it was by the Russians, although probably not since they already built a couple things. But yeah, see, ordinarily, since you have a limit on how much luxuries a city will use, you usually need to have like Michelangelo's chapel or a whole bunch of temples or something before you can have your nation celebrate and grow a lot. But at this high level, you can just raise the luxuries and they'll still work, because 2 luxuries will make each citizen happy already, instead of having to spend 4. And then you can make about half your citizens happy, and then you need to make sure to have enough, contentment structures. Okay, so right there I started researching philosophy. It's a bit of a risk because I don't know whether someone else is researching it yet. Trade would have been the safer option, but if I get philosophy, then I'll be able to get trade right away.